Architects and interior designers, if your current software feels clunky, stuck in the past and slows your team down, today I'll be showing you how to switch to Rayon Design to speed up your workflow and streamline your entire concept to construction process. Whether you've heard of Rayon Design and are wondering how to switch from your current software, like AutoCAD, Vectorworks, Floor Planner or others, or you're just discovering it for the first time, this tutorial is for you. We'll cover what Rayon is, why professionals are switching to it, and most importantly, I'll show you how easy it is to transfer your existing workflow, design files and documentation from legacy software into Rayon. At any point, you can click the links in the description to create a free Rayon account, book a demo or webinar, and explore more resources like templates and tutorials. Now, let's dive in. Okay, so what is Rayon? Well, Rayon is the next generation effortless CAD platform for interior designers and architects optimized for modern workflows. It streamlines the entire concept to construction process from design documentation to presentation. Import industry standard files, produce precise technical drawings, and set them up as client-ready presentations all within a single platform, including mood boards and smart spec sheets. Rayon includes built-in AI tools, a vast CAD block library, and is cloud-based, fostering real-time collaboration. Rayon is trusted by more than 1,000 companies across 120 countries, supporting teams from early design through documentation, construction, and procurement. The reason's simple: legacy CAD tools no longer meet the needs of modern teams. They are fragmented tools offering fragmented workflows. Design today goes beyond drawings. It includes specification schedules, mood boards, and presentations. Legacy tools fail to bring it all together. Built for solo work, not collaboration. Desktop file-based software wasn't designed for real-time, team-driven workflows, which slows projects down. Too complex and too exclusive. Traditional CAD was built for specialists only, leaving project stakeholders without an accessible solution to communicate with their architects and designers. And what about AI? AI is nowhere to be found in legacy software. The industry is changing and legacy software fails to keep up. Rayon is the change the industry has been waiting for. From small design studios to large real estate groups and construction companies, Rayon is used throughout the industry. It's never too early or too late to make the switch. Rayon supports newly founded studios launching their practice, as well as established organizations upgrading their workflows. And the results speak for themselves.
Rayon has helped our actions to move more quickly, to be more understandable. It's been a really fantastic tool for the whole team.
It's quite playful and explorative, and some of the other softwares, I think it's like so timely and kind of so dense on your computer that it can lose that element of flexibility.
We have used SketchUp, Revit, AutoCAD. Instead, just hopping onto Rayon, it's a huge deal. It's a huge time saver.
When I was sandboxing, I came to realize fairly quickly that it's actually much easier to design in Rayon. It was quite intuitive. There's quite a nice mix, and the realization that we could design in it rather than just drafting it.
Transitioning to Rayon can happen at your own pace, whether you're a solo professional or migrating entire teams across your company. You can get started right away by following the steps below, or book a demo if you'd like hands-on support with your migration. In this tutorial, we'll work through 5 simple steps. Create your free account and get set up in Rayon. Bring in your existing work by importing DWGs and PDF files and learn how Rayon replaces CTB settings with styles. Get familiar with Rayon's features, review Rayon's core CAD concepts, and explore modern features like its smart tables and AI. Set up libraries and templates using Rayon's built-in CAD block library or your team's custom assets. Onboard your team to collaborate in real time, whether one member at a time or in bulk. Rayon is fully web-based, so there's no complex installation or IT setup required. Just open it in your browser or download the desktop app and get started. I'm going to show you how to sign up to Rayon. So we're going to go to rayon.design. You can see here that we've got book a demo, try it for free. So I'm going to try it for free. Now, I'll add in my name and I'll add in an email and a password. Don't look. We'll verify that. So you'll receive a email, which I've just got here on my phone. We'll verify that and go from there. I can tell Rayon what I am, so student, hobbyist, I'm going to say an architect, because that is what I am. I'm going to say I have a company of 1 to 5. And say a consulting firm, and I'm going to tick a few of these. Do continue. How do they learn about Rayon? Let's say it's helpful YouTube tutorials. Have you ever used CAD software before? Yes, very often. What software do you currently use? Right, let's see, AutoCAD. And then I can invite my teammates, or I can continue on my own. So if I want to invite my teammates, so I'm setting myself up as an organization. So let's go to organization. I'm going to say Studio Chris Simmons. And continue. 1 to 5, architecture. And I use a mouse. So you can see here I have a welcome screen, and it gives me this example project to look at. Now there are helpful tutorials that it's taking me through. I'll let you do those in your own time. So click here to create my first project. And you can see there are a variety of templates that I can use. So different types of drawing sets that will help me as a sort of starter for 10. Go back to models. And you can see here on the home space, I have my models, I have my templates, so example templates, and then we have a variety of tutorials. The one thing I just want to draw your attention to is my organization. So that's here, that's Studio Chris Simmons, which I created just a second ago. And I can set up a series of workspaces. So I could do that for different projects. For example, if I had a variety of drawings within a project. But I can also add team members. So if you are an organization of, between 1 to 5 or even larger, you can have your team members as part of your organization. And to add a member, I would just go to add a member, and that would mean a paid element. So having my team involved would allow me to have multiple people involved in my organization. And to be able to see where your members are, we can go to settings. So just in this drop down here, we can go to settings. You can see my organization here. I'll go to settings there. So that's my organization name. And then I can add members to my organization via this window. And I will insert their email address, so obviously their user account, to add them. So I'll just add in my other email. You can see there's a little pop-up, and I'll add that as an editor, press invite, and then that will be pending, and that will send an email to that person. And that's how you would have people join your organization and allow them access to your workflow. And similarly, I can create new workspaces. So I could say project A, for example, and then people within my organization can access that workspace and we can share things within it. Rayon lets you work with the files you already have, DWGs, PDFs, and images. DWG imports are fully lossless, preserving layers, blocks, hatches, and structures, so your drawings open in Rayon exactly as you'd expect. So it feels like working in the CAD software you already know, but with new powerful features at your fingertips. Okay, back at my home screen, I can import my DWG. So this could be one of your existing projects from your legacy CAD tool. I have an example DWG here in my downloads. You have a number of toggles which you can slide on and off here. So make model public, import hidden layers, import empty layers, import blocks without instances. So we're just going to import as is. And here you will have a prompt here. By clicking 2 points, you need to understand the distance. So this should come into scale, but we'll just do a check. So at the moment, this is drawn at 8,000 millimeters, which is 8 meters. So we'll check here, and we want to set our thing to millimeters. We'll do continue, and then that will bring our drawing in at a 1-to-1 scale correctly. So you can see that here. Now, if you're moving from a legacy CAD tool, you might be more used to a wireframe view. So we can look at that in Rayon. So it can very easily switch over to a wireframe view. So we're just as accurate as any of your legacy CAD tools. And I can also add in a grid as well. And you saw previously my units. So I set my units at millimeters, but these can be centimeters, meters, feet and inches if you want. And I can also toggle on and off my grid and my wireframe view there. And so we do all of our drawing in the model canvas. So that's where we are currently. We also have a paper canvas. So that's where we have our sheets. So a couple of things about line types and styles. So when the drawing comes in, everything will come in on an import layer. And then you have all of your CAD layers hosted within that one layer. Now, at the moment, we have CAD information colored per layer, but this isn't really how you would do it in Rayon. Typically, you would have a style. I'll come on to styles in a second, but you can see here that anything on the door layer, for example, has a green color. I can obviously change that to red if I wanted to, and so anything is hosted on that layer will change color, just as you would in another CAD tool. But the lines, the line work, the blocks, they all have a style, and that's how Rayon operates with these styles. So if I click on any one of these lines, and I just want to take it back to our standard view, so I'll just turn off the grid and the wireframe. Each of these line styles, so we'll have wall styles, we'll have line styles, we'll have block styles, even fill styles. So clicking on this line, I have this style already made within the system. Now this style will relate to a number of different lines on the drawing, and you have a library of styles which is on this side over here. So just like you have the block library, you have a style library as well. So these are the different styles which are currently sitting in the drawing. So I can go into there and I can edit a style. So the other thing to know is that we have our paper canvas, so our line styles. So just as you would with your traditional rotoring pens, we have our line types, and then they have an active canvas style. So depending on what you're modeling at, so obviously we're modeling a 1:1, but we do have a view style. So at the moment our view is set at 1:40, which means that the thicknesses shown on our screen in our model canvas are 1:40. This would be different if we're plotting on the paper canvas. CTBs can be entirely replicated easily in Rayon by using Rayon Styles. Let's see how these work. Now, just to show you a few different types of styles, I can set my walls, for example. So if I want to draw a wall, that will have its own style. So again, you'll see down here, this has a thickness, a color, so a fill. It has a stroke width, so I can set that to thick or thin, and I can save that as a style. So say I wanted all of my walls or all of my certain type of walls within the project to be a certain style, external wall, for example, and then say these three walls wanted to be that same style, I can do the picker tool, and then that will pick that style, and I can save that. And I can even go back and edit that. And then that means that if I wanted to go back and change that at a later date, any of those walls which are affected by that style will update as well. Similarly, we can do exactly the same thing with, just standard line work. So again, I can change the thickness of this. I can save that itself as a style. So if you're doing annotations, for example, we can do it with text, test, and I can change the size of the text. I can change the color, and again I can save that as a style, so text A, for example, and exactly the same thing with fills, for example. So with this style I can add a gradient, I can add a texture, I can add a hatch. So again, I could change my style, I can save that, hatch A, whatever I want, and go from there. So we have all of those styles. They can be set up and they can be deployed over the drawing. And just while we're talking about the scale of the line work, I just want to quickly show you how to set up a drawing in the paper space. So as I said a second ago, we've got our model space, which is called import. Go to a new canvas, the paper canvas. So we'll call that paper canvas for now. We can create a page. So we have standard scaled pages, or you can create a custom size one. So I'm going to have a landscape A3. Obviously, when we're working in the paper space, this is 1:1. So this is a sheet of paper size. Bring in my block library. So I'll come on more to the block library later, but I just want to show you the block library as it is. And I can show you, we have an array of title blocks that are pre-made. So I'm just going to find an A3 title block, drag that in, obviously that scales perfectly, and then I'll go back to my layers and I can add a view from my model canvas looking back at that drawing. So obviously I can scale that, I can change my crop boundary. But say, for example, we just wanted to zoom into a certain section, I can override this and I can zoom in, and you'll see on the right hand side my scale is changing. So say I wanted to do a 1:20 drawing of this area, for example, I can change my crop boundary here. I can even say, oh, actually it'd be better if I rotated it, for example, so it fits on the page better. And then you can obviously, with your line widths, if we went back to our import and we change this line type, edit the style, say that's actually a lot thicker, that's then how it comes out in my scale drawing. So, you know, I'm thinking about my scale, what I'm going to be showing things at, and I could have the same drawing shown on multiple sheets with the different scaled line work depending on my view. And you can also see here if I wanted to edit some of the blocks. So, for example, when you've brought the DWG in, we still have those blocks defined. So we've got things like sinks, and I can double click into that block, and again I can change that style. So at the moment it's set as a 0.18 blue line, so I can go into that style, I can change it to a black, you know, I can make it slightly thicker, for example. I can even add a dash or, you know, change the line weight if I wanted to as well. Exactly the same with this one, you can see there, and then that's reflected in our paper space. And as I mentioned, our view scale, so in our model canvas, we have our stroke scale set to a certain number. So it comes as 1:40 as standard. But say I was drawing a larger scale drawing and I wanted the stroke scale to be at 1:100, obviously then that changes, you know, because I'm going to be more zoomed out. So it increases the thickness of the visible elements of the line, but it doesn't affect our plotted line styles, which is really helpful. One of the biggest barriers to switching software is the learning curve. With Rayon, familiar drafting habits from legacy CAD tools translate naturally, so you feel at home from day one. Rayon uses a command line, keyboard shortcuts, layers, and other core CAD concepts that you already know. So when moving from your legacy tools to Rayon, you probably want to be aware of the different tool sets that we have within the software. So at the bottom here, we have our sort of toolbar area. So we can move that to a command line, so you might be used to in other software where you would type elements into the command line. So line, for example, and I can draw my lines. Obviously I can tap spacebar to repeat the commands, as you're probably used to as well. And similarly, we have an array of tools with icons. So the tools you'll probably be using the most are things like the wall tool or the opening tool. So here, for example, we can have a continuous wall. So this wall will have a thickness, and that's all set by style. So I could change that to a 0.3 wall style. I can change the fill color, and I can save that as a style, as I mentioned earlier. If I want to add an opening, I have a block library of different openings. So I have certain standard things like doors and windows, which will be hosted within those walls. So I can select a door, for example, and you can see there that will automatically cut my wall. So I can click on that, I can change the opening direction, and that exists as a block instance. And again, I can go into there, I can amend different elements, I can amend the style, for example. Similarly, I have zones, so these are sort of areas, if you will. So I could fill that space, it will calculate my area. That area can have a fill. Again, that could be a color, that could be a hatch, and I can update the tag that's related to that. And again, that text itself, that can have a style, so that could be bigger, smaller, a different font, for example, and we could set that as a style which will be consistent across the project. And similarly, we have things like zone dividers, where if we don't have a line but we want to divide a zone, we can put that in, and then that changes that area, and then I can put in a separate zone on that side. So if you're splitting a space, for example. And in our sort of main tools, obviously we call these elements. We also have shapes, so we can create line work, so circles, rectangles, curves, so sort of splines. We have our dimensioning tools, so obviously I'm reading our dimensions. I can change my units to millimeters. Again, all my annotations are set at styles, so I could say these are to be red. I can change my strokes to be red. I can change the width of the lines. I can change the size of the text. I can even change the end of the points if I want to. It's all very simple, very quick, all controlled through the styles, and that makes sure that they're consistent across your project. And they can even be consistent across your office, for example. So you can obviously set your own standards, which are shared amongst your colleagues. And within the annotations tab, there are all things around revision clouds, tags, text, arrows, leaders, and dimensions. And then within the editing tools, we have everything that you could want that are similar to your legacy tools. So, things like array, chamfer, fillet, mirror, grouping things, blocking things. We can change the scale of elements. We have bucket fills, where you can fill elements if you want to. Obviously rotate. And just like with the legacy CAD tools, everything has a shortcut. So obviously, I use this within my own practice and I'm quite an experienced user. I use the shortcuts all day, every day. And you can see there, once you learn them, everything speeds up. So each element has a shortcut that goes alongside it. And then if you're modeling, obviously you're doing it with layers as well. So we have some layers already within the model, but I can create new layers. And then I can have, I can select my walls, for example, and in the right-hand side, I can select what layer they go onto. I can also host layers. So I can take one of my layers and I can nest it within another layer like that. So these are all my wall elements. So my actual drawn geometry. And they all live within that layer. I can then turn them off and on. I can lock them and I can set them as active as well. On top of that, Rayon introduced modern tools that help you draw faster and produce better documentation in a more streamlined way. Here are a few key features built directly into the drafting experience. Smart tables and schedules that stay linked to the data in your drawings. Smart tables and schedules are a real game changer in Rayon. So I've just got this project here, which is a apartment renovation. Now, you can see here we have an example FF&E schedule, so which lists out all of your furniture, which is obviously pertinent for interior designers. So we have the name of the product, the brand, the price, whether it's been approved by the client, and then the material. Now, the great thing in Rayon is that these all live within our actual blocks. So you can see here back in our model canvas, we have that schedule, and then we have pieces of furniture, so the blocks within the drawing. Now on our left hand side, we have tables, and you can see here we have a variety of tables, and I'm going to go to our FF&E table, and this is the sort of brains behind this visual element. Now if I click on one of these elements here, that's reflected within our table. So that is a Liz 7, a Vitra chair, €200, client approved, yes, and is made of wood. Now, obviously the table is reading that block and it's reading the data, the custom instances which are related to it. So in here, each of these blocks has that information within its properties. So the price, the brand, the material, and the client approved. So we can change those parameters. And if I change the material here, so I'm going to change that to concrete, that will then be reflected within the schedule. And again, I'm going to change it back. Let's say it's on sale today for only $100. And you'll notice that it only affects that one instance. Another piece of furniture. So with this bed, for example, I have all of that information. I've set my parameters against it and my schedule is reading it, which is absolutely spot on. And I can do exactly the same thing with other elements like materials. So here, for example, the materials are reading my zones. So these areas of fill, they look like just like a sort of custom fill for the image, but the reality is that these have properties related to them, zone properties. So again, this zone has a material, a brand, a lead time, client approved, and a price per square meter. And then the table is reading that area. So obviously it's helping you with your quantities and your takeoffs. And I could group that per room. So at the moment I've got it grouped per room, but I could group it per material, for example. So for example, I could say actually this room, and this room are all the same material. So it could quantify my total takeoff for that material. And again, if I change the style or the cost, for example, it will change in my table, which you can see there. And for me, that's so helpful because they will be able to be updated. Nothing is sort of static. And if I adjust, if I go in and adjust these areas, those numbers will update, not only in this area, but on my sheets. Client-ready presentations created directly where you draw, shareable via a real-time link that's always up to date. The other element I love about Rayon is that it's thinking about client-ready presentations all the time you are drawing. So these are our model canvas. So you can see here on the left-hand side, we have our canvases. So we've got model canvases and paper canvases. These drawings are obviously floor plans and elevations. But in our paper canvases, we're picking up those drawings and we're thinking about our sheets and our presentation the whole time. It isn't an afterthought. It's not in a separate piece of software. It's all in one place and it's all consistent and coherent. So you can see each one of these pages is looking back to my model canvas, so of my floor plans, my elevations, my materials. So all of these elements are created in Rayon, so I can bring in images. I can bring in images of materials and assign them to different elements. And it has a real consistency in our presentation standard. We're thinking about line weights, we're thinking about consistent textiles. And we've even got closer in drawings like millwork drawings and CGIs, which are imported within Rayon as well. And we've got all of that presentation set out, but what can we do with that presentation? So a couple of things. So we can export it in the traditional way. So we can export that as a series of images, so PNGs or JPEGs. I can issue those as separate PDFs, or I can export them as a PDF document. But the most powerful thing you can do in Rayon is to share them. So you can see in my top right hand corner, I have a share button. Now I can share this with another member of my team. So as I said before, if you're working collaboratively, you can share this with other members of your team. You could share it with your boss, and they can come in and they can comment or they can mark up your work. But the great thing is to share it as a presentation. So if I select this little toggle here, this will then give me a link. So I'm not having to export, upload PDFs, send a link out to my client. It all lives in one place. That is reducing so much friction and potential issues because I'm just issuing one link. And the great thing with that is that I can send that link to my clients. And if I make any changes, I'll just press this update button. I won't need to change the link again. It will just update the presentation of that link. So you always have the latest. AI-powered tools that support both technical and creative work, from learning Rayon and finding assets to generating 3D axonometric views, applying visual styles and sampling materials from images. The other amazing element of Rayon is the AI tool. So on the left-hand side, we have a Rayon AI chat. Now, I'll just show you one example here. Say, for example, I was going to change one of these elevations and turn it into a render. So all I'd need to do is, first of all, do a screenshot within Rayon. So this will be a frame around the area that I want to be rendering. So let's take this elevation, for example. So that will go into the chat. And then I'll go to tools, and I've got a variety of different things I can be doing. So I could generate an image, so I can generate a tracing, so I can turn an image into a vector. Generate a product. So again, from an image, I could get a CAD block out of that. So a piece of furniture, for example, it will create a CAD block for me to import into my drawing. I can stylize, so I can turn this flat elevation into a watercolor, a clay model, a hand sketch, a render, or a wireframe, or I can generate an axonometric. So why don't we generate an axonometric? So I'll prompt that and I will press send. Now it will take a second to think about it. Wow, look at that. So I can insert into my drawings, and I can reference that into my sheets. I can also edit that image. So if I right click on it and say reference in the chat, I could then stylize that into a clay model, for example. Look at that. So you can see that it hasn't changed the geometry in any way. And I can preview that and I can insert it. So really, when you're iterating on ideas or you're looking for different ways to present something, the AI panel is absolutely key. So you get all the essential drafting tools you expect, plus powerful new capabilities on top. To learn more about Rayon's features, explore our tutorial series or documentation linked below. In Rayon, you can turn blocks and styles into shared libraries, making it easy for your team to reuse assets and stay consistent across projects. Rayon includes a built-in CAD block library with top, side and front views for plans, sections and elevations, featuring parametric blocks and AI-generated blocks. You can use these blocks instantly, import your own DWG blocks or vendor catalogs, and organize everything into the shared libraries for your team. Rayon also lets you create style libraries and templates to standardize your work across projects and collaborators. You can save entire drawings as templates, ensuring everyone on your team starts with the same graphic standards every time. Consistency in our drawings is key, and Rayon allows you to do that seamlessly. So with our styles, so we'll go over to our style library, we have these variety of styles that have been created in the drawing of this drawing set. And you can see all the different styles that have been used. So we have styles for walls, we have styles for text, for annotations, and for line work and fills. And as we showed earlier, you can access those styles here. Now these are consistent across your different model canvases. So these used for our larger scale plans are consistent with those used in our smaller scale plans, and even across our paper space. So all of these elements, including the icons and the text, the colors, they will all have a style. So just like our style library, there's also a block library. So you can see here that there's our standard library, which contains all the elements, and they're all within the Rayon library. And then we have in model blocks. So these are all the blocks that are being used in this specific model. So just like with our styles, our block library and our style library can be shared. And that means that amongst your team with other projects, you can share all of those things. So once you've built those assets, they're really easy to continue the use throughout other projects. Now to do that, again, we go up to share and we can go to libraries. So we can publish our styles, which is here, and we can publish our blocks. Now again, if we make changes to those, we can update them, and you can see that published libraries in your personal workspace are available to you, but if we have a team, they'll be available to the rest of our team. Similarly, we can set this model as a template. So for example, if you had certain drawing styles or you wanted to communicate the drawing as a sort of set office standard, for example, you could share that as a template. So again, you just create that little tab. If you're within your group workspace, that will appear as a template for other users to be able to access, view, and edit. Rayon is a multiplayer design platform that enables live co-editing, allowing multiple people to work on the same drawing at the same time. Team members can comment directly on drawings and add annotations, making reviews and feedbacks clear and easy without switching between tools. Okay, say I wanted to share this model with a teammate for review. So I'll go over to share again, and I'll go to access. So I'm going to invite my other email address, which I set up at the beginning. And I can add myself as an admin, an editor, or a viewer. So I'm going to add myself as a viewer and press invite. Then I'll receive an email which will prompt me to access it. Okay, and then from my other identity, so I'm going to sign in here. And you can see here, now in my other workspace, I've got models that have been shared with me. So I'm going to click on here. Now I can't edit it, but I can view it. Now, say I was, the lead designer or the project architect or the boss of the firm, I can now go into this drawing and I can do a number of things. So from here, I can measure, for example. So I can go in, I can check a dimension, for example, 5.15 meters. I could check an area. Obviously, I'm doing this in the model canvas, so it's to 1-to-1 scale. That will give me a total area. But I can also comment and mark up, and that is super helpful. So rather, than printing out or exporting your drawings, PDFing, printing them, and taking them to your boss's desk to red pen, you can just send a link, and that will notify them to review the drawing. So I can add a comment here, and I can say, change the dining table. The client has an existing antique they want to use. And I can post that. Or I could add a markup and say, actually, I want to change that, and I'll add a comment saying, make access door to pantry in the center. Now, these are obviously just examples, but they show you the power of being able to do all of that. So even be able to send things to your bosses or your collaborators or even your clients, for example, and them to be able to comment and mark it up. So I'm just going to jump back into my other login. And now back in my other login, so the original, I can now go to comments, and you'll see here those comments when they were done. And if I click on them, it will take me to them, what they are. I can reply. I can add a reaction, thumbs up. We'll update. And obviously that keeps a log of those interactions. So if you ever want to go back and remind yourself of what was agreed, then it's all logged within Rayon again. On top of that, Rayon includes a team-wide file system to organize, manage, and share models and resources across your entire organization, all in one place. You can onboard your team individually or in bulk to integrate Rayon into your organization, or simply by inviting them into your organization. In that case, they'll get an email notification, and once joined, billing will adapt automatically. And if we go back to our home page, so we go back to the Studio Chris Simmons space. So again, we have our workspace here, and we have our settings, and we have our members. So you can see here that I have my other email address pending, and I can add that user as an admin and editor reviewer, or I can remove them. And then as I have team members, I can add them into the invite. So that would gain them access to my group, to my workspace, to my organization within Rayon. And they'll get that notification via email. And that's it. You've just seen how easy it is to move from legacy software to Rayon and start designing, documenting, and presenting in one seamless workflow. If you're ready to try it for yourself, you'll find links in the description to create a free Rayon account, book a demo or webinar, and explore more tutorials, templates, and resources to help you get started. If this video was helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your team. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.